behalf of our Kiowa people, I want to say welcome to all you visitors that come far and near. Because we Kiowas, we came through here too. We have a name for that. Pikes Peak, we call it Goodle Coat. Goodle Coat, which means Red Mountain. And we got a town out here called Kiowa, Colorado. Because we migrated through here. And then we had encounters with other tribes. That's why we're still a warrior society tribe, the Kiowa people. This time, ladies and gentlemen, the Kiowa Black Leggings Warrior Society, Tonkonga.
If you are able, would you mind standing with us? My own day. Thank you, Sege. This is our Kiowa Black Leggings. This is Dogu Ongo. They're outstanding warriors. So getting ready for our ceremony next month. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Warren Queton. I'm currently serving as the District 7 legislator for the Kiowa Tribe. 2017, we reformed our government. We were under the 1934 IRA Memorandum Constitution that set up into a business committee, much like Cheyenne and Arapahoes were, Comanches, Apaches. And so we reformed our government, and we formed 7 districts, and I represent the at-large district. All the citizens that don't live in our Kiowa jurisdiction of southwest Oklahoma, I represent those citizens. And there are over half the tribe that don't live in southwest Oklahoma. We have 10,000 members of our tribe, and half of those live all over the United States: Denver, Dallas, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Wichita, Kansas City. And so I represent those other citizens globally. A little bit about me. Like my Segi was talking about, I served in the Army. I'm still serving. I'm currently a major in the Oklahoma Army National Guard. But civilian side, I work for my tribe. I'm also an educator. I worked 14 years in education at the University of Oklahoma. And I was actually appointed 2016 as the tribal liaison officer for the university on all three campuses: Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Norman. So growing up, it's been full circle. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, part of a urban Indian community, Dallas and Fort Worth. And back then, 70s, 80s, there were about 10,000 American Indians living in Dallas and Fort Worth. Much like your community here in Denver, they went there to find work. Some of them were part of the relocation program. Some of them had to go there and make it on their own. That was my grandparents. They always said, relocation, they wouldn't help them. So they said my relocation program, I applied and I was denied. My grandfather, his name was Melvin. He said, but my sister, she applied and she got awarded. So my sister, she said, one day, Cole, he was telling me, your grandma Margie, she'd come over and she goes, we're going to Fort Worth. And she said, why don't you come with us? And so they all there was a little street called James Avenue in Fort Worth. And there were about 8 Indian families that lived in that little community there. And I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. But I guess I'm fortunate that I was raised by my grandparents, and they made sure that I learned my language. My grandpa, one time, I remember he was a handyman, and I'd go with him to roof houses, fix plumbing, and he'd always be talking in Kiowa to me. And when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, I said, hey, Cole, I said, why are you talking Kiowa to me? He said, I go to school, I don't have anybody I can talk with. He goes, well, you got me. He goes, I'll pick you up from school, we'll talk all day, but you got to work. He had me crawling under houses, on top of houses. But he always taught me my language, and so it was easy for me to kind of be around our old people. And then that community, James Avenue, my grandfather's brother-in-law, his name was George Tabone Sr. He lived just a couple houses down. And then there were some people from the Ancu family. There was also some Soodles. They lived there, same community. So I heard our language growing up as a young man, and I really didn't realize how special that was till I went to the University of Oklahoma. I went to school there, and I just picked it up one day. Her name was Carol Botone Willis. Her and Gus Palmer, we call him Bishi. They worked at the University of Oklahoma, and I enrolled in Kiowa language, and Bishi was my instructor, and he said, Bego, you already know Goy. Why are you taking my class? I said, he goes, because you pick everything you saying. You already know it. I said, well, I want to keep it going and improve because at that time, all of my elders had left, made their journey to the other camp. And so I started teaching language at the University of Oklahoma. And I guess that's a little bit about me. I went to my education, but I had my original education from my grandparents, Melvin Queton and George Tabone Sr. They taught me, made sure I knew who I was. And when I came back to Oklahoma in 1999, people didn't know me because I lived in Dallas and Fort Worth. And then I could go to Carnegie and I taught Kiowa to our elders, and they liked that. And so they said, you keep on going. Solo, Pepe, you keep on going. So I still do that today. And some of you might recognize me too. I'm also an actor. I was on Reservation Dogs as the bingo. I was the crazy guy beating on the car outside the casino. I also called bingo and said, behave. So you young kids, you need to behave out there. That was me. I have a new series that just premiered last night. Y'all watch it. It's about Tulsa. It's a love story to Tulsa. It's called The Lowdown. So my part in there, my part in there is called Uncle Ed. So you might know, y'all's got that crazy uncle. His name might be simple, like Ed. You know, that's Uncle Ed. That's me. So I'll be in The Lowdown this next season. But I'm thankful to be here in Denver. Just wanted to explain who I was. And I never thought I would be elected to, I always said I was going to stay out of tribal politics. Because my grandpa said, he always said, you want to keep your hair black, don't ever go into tribal politics. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, look at your grandpa over there. He was tribal chairman. His hair is just jet white. And he said, don't do that. Don't ever do that. Keep young. And so I think about that. Here I am. I'm representing our people, and I want to do good things. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And I want to thank the host, City of Denver here, City Council, Kasser. Thank y'all for all the accommodations. And what I like about this tribal convening is that word relationship. We talked about several things yesterday and today, but I was thinking about NAGPRA, the young man that was talking about NAGPRA. Relationship is not something you just come and do once. It takes years to cultivate that relationship and earn trust with tribes. A lot of times people want to consult. They might take you out to dinner and call that consultation for our tribes. And that's not true consultation. What we're doing here today, having a dialogue, taking notes, treating our tribes like nations is very, very important because we are sovereign nations, equivalent of any state government, other tribal government, federal government. That relationship needs to be cultivated, and y'all are doing good things up here. I want to say, real quick, I'm going to get to Rick. I don't want to be thrown hop and be hogging the mic. How fortunate y'all are as a city. I come from Oklahoma, and let me tell you right now, and my Cheyenne Arapaho brothers, Southern Cheyenne, Southern Arapaho brothers, it's very tumultuous times in Oklahoma because our state government would never do anything like this with our tribes. We have 39 tribes, and they're constantly battling us and trying to erode our sovereignty. Recently, we had I want to thank Doc E today because our state superintendent resigned of education. He wanted to erase anything in the history books about Native people. They want to focus on pioneer culture. They want to focus on the settlers coming in and showing these Indians how to farm. That's what they want to focus on in Oklahoma. They want to erase any part of Indian culture. I'll give you an example. Our license plates used to say Oklahoma, Native America. Y'all might remember those from the 80s and the 90s. They don't do that anymore. You go to Oklahoma, there's a big sign, and it'll say, Oklahoma, imagine that. And they took our license plate and they made it red and white, just like a MAGA hat. And it's really unfortunate that we can't have a relationship with Oklahoma. 39 tribes in Oklahoma, and we can't have a relationship with our governor and our state government. So I just want to tell y'all how fortunate you are, how positive this tribal convening is. I wish we could replicate something like this in Oklahoma, and it's not in the cards right now. Maybe one day, maybe if I run for governor, maybe we can change that. But we got to be in those positions to make change happen. So, all right, Rick. I hope.
Thank you, Warren. I'm up here because I'm Kiowa, but I'm also Cherokee. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm from Oklahoma as well. And when I say I'm Kiowa and Cherokee, I often tell people I'm half wild, half civilized. So I'm not sure which is which. But with that said, I'm going to I'll try to keep my comments and thoughts brief, but give you, those of you that do not know me, a little bit of a background as well. And I'll start with the Cherokee side. I'm a descendant of Redbird Smith, who was a traditionalist and was a chief back in the time of the Dawes Act and such. And you've heard of the Kiowa Tribe with the Cherokees, and I'm a direct descendant of Redbird Smith and have family, and that's my Cherokee side. Now, the downside of that a little bit is, with respect to Colorado, there are stories that during this time they were talking about this morning, the gold rush, and when all the people swarmed into Colorado, that there were a band of Cherokee brothers that were on their way to California for the gold. And they happened to be, I believe, around Cherry Creek, and they found gold here in Colorado. They tried to keep it secret, but the word got out. And that's one story of started the gold rush into Colorado, blaming it on Cherokees. So, you can talk about Cherokee princesses, but, I'll stand up if you say, and stick up for you if you say we caused that gold rush here. On the Kiowa side, if you Google Kiowa, and Warren and I talked about this often, hear people talk about their bloodlines, and especially if you hear Indian people give a talk, I think everybody's can trace their ways back to a chief. They always say, my ancestors are this, and it was Chief so-and-so, Chief so-and-so. It's kind of like those that trace themselves that must be back to Adam and Eve. I guess you can always go all the way back. But on my Kiowa side, if you were to Google it and looked up Kiowa leaders, a couple of names that pop up are Satanta, but he is a descendant of Red TP. And so I'm a descendant of the bloodline of Red TP, as Warren is this morning. He mentioned the Boindy family. But I only mention that to say Kiowa's on, and I'm enrolled with the Kiowa Tribe, that and the eloquent talk that Andy gave, there's something in that bloodline of Kiowas around oratory. I didn't get all of it, or it got cut off a little bit by my Cherokee side, but you heard Warren talking and very giving a good background and clear, articulate of his tie to family, and family is very important to me. But my grandpa was a Soodle, Henry Soodle. He was one of the leaders when they brought back the Gord clan. Those of you who heard about the Gord clan in the 50s. And his son now is the leader of the Gord clan in Oklahoma. But I wanted to mention that, but he was also, my grandfather, Henry Soodle, was a bundle keeper of the great, you've heard maybe the 10 grandmothers, our tribal medicine back then. Now, I won't go any more talking about them, but family is important in Indian culture. So my tie as well to culture and Kiowa is learning as much as I can and more. My mother-in-law is full-blood Kiowa, so that makes my wife Kiowa, and so we always talk about Kiowa things. But the connection a little bit with Warren as well, my wife's grandmother had land that's just north of Warren's relatives and grandparents' land. And it was the site of we were Sundance people as such, but it was also the site of what they call the last feather dance. And the feather dance was given to the Kiowas by the Arapaho. And the last dance was in 1916. And the reason they call it the feather dance is because all the dancers wore an eagle feather in their hair. And I just wanted to mention that because my mother's family still is on that land, and I know Warren's family is still just south of there. But the spiritual side of being Indian is often you'll hear people say, and I've sensed it, you can still hear the singing and the drumming of our ancestors on that land on a cool, very few cool summer evenings, but you'll often hear that singing. I've worked here at the Denver Indian Center for the past 10 years. Prior to that, I was with the American Indian College Fund, the University of Phoenix, and the University of Colorado. I began at the Denver Indians education program, Dallas education program in Dallas. I don't know, Warren might have been a kid in one of the schools there at that time. But anyway, I've come full circle because what I did is not a whole lot different than what I've done here is working for the community. And I'm very humbled and pleased to see people coming here to the center to hear about how we can continue to strengthen our presence in this community, all tribes. We are an urban center made up of all tribes, and we have a land base here. But with that said, that's encouraging to see city council people here, representatives that I know will share as legislation comes up in the state. But that's kind of what all this is about, to educate everybody, inform everybody, and prepare everybody, and energize everybody to, continue on educating our young people that we're here, we're not going anywhere. Land acknowledgments, they'll continue on. I know there's discussion about those, and I tell people, land acknowledgments, the land didn't go anywhere. It's the people that got moved. And so when we talk about these discussions, it's about bringing about symbolically and tangibly our people to our original homelands. So Warren mentioned it briefly, the importance of nation-to-nation conversation and discussion is more important now than ever with things going on like the Cultural Embassy Project. And I've even heard it from our relatives in the South. They said, well, if you want to have a voice in what's happening here besides us, you got to have elected officials come and talk to our elected officials. And Warren, on his own, to some degree, a couple of years ago, testified before the state legislature on the mascot issue here so he is definitely involved with what we're trying to do here. So I'll make some other comments later on, but again, I'm blessed to be a part of this community, and I thank everybody for coming today. I hope.
All right, we're going to start with the history of the Kiowa migration through Colorado. We're going to cover early migration, seasonal hunting grounds, and the Kiowa's cultural ties to the land. We'll start with you first, Mr. Rick Waters. Cultural recognition. What aspects of Kiowa history and culture would the tribe like to see acknowledged in Denver's public spaces, such as museums, monuments, or cultural centers?
I'm looking for notes, but even if I find them, I can't read my writing half the time. But I think we're doing some of that right now. For example, I think it's one of the few, if only, libraries in the country that's named after an American Indian. In this case, to your point, a Kiowa, John Emahula. The John Emahula Library, recognizing all his contributions to the community and to Indian country. I think land acknowledgments again, and if you ever see a land acknowledgement, and I've helped counties and cities and schools and agencies develop land acknowledgments, if you see, and I've done for the governor an introduction, we list, and everybody's familiar with Cheyenne Arapaho Ute, but it was mentioned this morning, the Kiowas were even here before the Arapahoes came from the Great Lakes area. So with that said, you'll see a land acknowledgement, and if I had anything to do with it, there'll be Kiowa listed in the acknowledgement. But the more people understand the uniqueness and the diversity of Indian country, particularly here in Colorado, I think that's one way. I'm always happy and proud when I take hikes or I go to Rocky Mountain National Park and you look at the signage that they have. Many of them will list Kiowas as one of the tribes that this was their homeland and that we came through. My wife, she'll often tell the story passed down in their family that Godibo, and there's a town in Oklahoma named Godibo, often telling about during those travels, he was born at the foot of the Rockies. And so, we have a tie here, and to have that acknowledged in whether it's signage or curriculum, that's history. And when you read U.S. history or you see curriculum in classes, in regular American history or international history, they go into detail. I think when you talk about Indian education and curriculum, you should go into detail, particularly in the area and region that you're in here. So those are some comments, and obviously being a part of curriculum. And I know there's been discussion about legislation here in the state to mandate Indian education into the schools. I know that's a challenge because the school districts by jurisdiction is kind of independent to the cities and that kind of thing.
So I would encourage the city to develop some sort of performative aspect to a land acknowledgement, because reading it sometimes, words can only go so far, but doing something performative would be awesome. And, just a thought, whenever your tribal embassy is created, what about having a land acknowledgement garden and making a film, or kind of showing that to your indigenous people? This is something we've acknowledged, but we're gonna read this and we're gonna show you this garden that we did to kind of recognize all of our people. Other universities have done that. I know even a university in Texas did a land acknowledgement garden, and we couldn't even do that at the University of Oklahoma. And I thought that was pretty impressive. But like Rick was talking about, how do we acknowledge our tribes in public spaces? And to my Cheyenne and Arapaho relatives, Lakota relatives, I think we all want to see how do we respectfully acknowledge that in different ways. Because I've heard a land acknowledgement, and hopefully the city has got some sort of training when people use land acknowledgements. I've heard some land acknowledgements be used at university convocations, and it was awkward because people didn't know what was going on. They never heard of a land acknowledgement. Sometimes that language can be awkward, and what you want is you want people to reflect. These people were here before us. You want them to walk away with that reflection, knowing that Native people are still here on this land. Like Rick was talking about, the land is still here. The Native people might have moved, but we are back here in Denver, and so you want them to reflect upon that. But with the tribal embassy coming up, I think we want the second office, Fred. We want to be neighbors right next. I want my office right next to Fred, so I can come up and we can offer a place, just like the Indian Center here. Our people want a place to meet. They want spaces to have things, conferences. It might be something where the Kiowa Tribe, we're located in Oklahoma, we can have a Kiowa couple of days, Kiowa conference, where all of our relatives all over the state of Oklahoma can meet. They can update enrollment, maybe enroll their children, locate and access their services, what's available to the citizens, Kiowa citizens living here in Colorado. So that's just a thought that I have on how the tribe might be acknowledged and recognized in our public spaces.
Awesome. I don't think you want to ask next to Fred, though. Seriously, I don't think so. Just kidding, Fred. All right, next question. Historical ties. How can Denver better recognize the Kiowa Tribe's historical presence and migration through Colorado, particularly their connection to the land and landmarks?
I think a lot of that you're doing it like already, and when you go to the history of Colorado, mentioning us, talking about our migration route through here. We do have ties, just like he was talking about Gode Bohon when he was born at the foot of the Rockies. You know, our tribe, we were here. We moved through here on our way south. A lot of people don't know who we are, you know, because it's a small tribe. And I always wonder why did we leave the North Country? Because we were originally in Canada, all the way down to the Yellowstone Mountains, and then we went over the Black Hills, and we kept on going south. And I thought, my grandpa, I asked him one time, man, we could have been living in the Yellowstone Mountains or in Canada. We have beautiful country up there. Why did we leave? He said, well, it was cold. I said, how do you know? You weren't there. He said, no, he goes, the way I heard it from my grandfolks and their grandparents is life was real hard. And we didn't we were mountain dwellers. And then our Crow brothers, they gave us the horses. I said, once we got those horses, it changed our lives because we could travel further out on the plains hunting buffalo. And so that's where we let out. About the late 1700s, we started our migration south. Then we went all the way south to the southern part of Mexico. And we got scared because we saw these people living in trees. And Kiowa people, they thought those are Hondiga saw me. What they were seeing was those monkeys. They spotted some monkeys that were living, I guess, that far south. So they're scared and they come on back. And we wound up living in, Oklahoma, along with our Comanche and Apache people. I will say this, I wish we would have stayed up here in Colorado, you know. I wish they would have found us in that Fort Laramie Treaty so we could have a land base here in Colorado too, because what they did to us in Oklahoma, they placed us on a reservation with the Comanches and the Apaches, and we all share land in communal land holdings. Like there's very little land that's just Kiowa land. A lot of the Kiowa land is actually Comanche and Apache land too. So we have to share that with the two other tribes. In our government, you know, we are trying to reestablish a land base. I want to thank the city of Denver. They gave us 10 buffalo last year in April. We brought those home. They're on a Kiowa allotment. The tribe has purchased, and now our tribe is leasing. We have to lease our own land because we have Kiowa, Comanche, Apache land by Rainy Mountain. There's a little knoll there. It's not a mountain. Y'all got mountains up here. We just have slick hills in Oklahoma. And so we call it Sapyalda. It's like a rainy hill. And there's 2,000 acres there, and that's where there's buffalo long-term. That's where those buffalo are going to be kept. But our Kiowa tribe, we've had a hard time because, like our Cheyenne Arapaho brothers, you know, the settlers wanted us to become farmers and ranchers, but we were never, it wasn't in our blood. They wanted us to settle down and farm. And for our Indian people, that was hard. And it's traumatized us since because they just couldn't make it. It was a hard life. A lot of our Native people or people that were original allottees wound up selling their property because they couldn't make it. It wasn't in their blood to farm or ranch. They wanted to hunt. They wanted to be out on the plains, following the buffalo. But that we could no longer do that. And our Kiowa government had to adapt. We had to try to manage the resources that we have, and a lot of that is in allotment land. And we're still trying to rebuild our land base at this point. So just want to talk a little bit about where we come from. We migrated through here. Yeah, we're located in Oklahoma, but we have ties going all the way up to Zoi, Devil's Tower, and then Koi Cope up there in Montana, Kiowa Mountains. A lot of those, even some of our relationships with the land, we still tell stories through our oral tradition about those places, those landmarks on our migration down here. So I guess I'd like to see more of that. If we could somehow do some sort of roadmap, maybe kind of, if I think that's at the museum already, but just kind of telling that story more about those tribes that have ties to Colorado.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that, but I do know in conversations I've had with Kiowas, you know, sometimes talking about our government, which is like any other, always has those times of heavy discussion, I'll say. But somebody mentioned, said, well, maybe because, you know, we started so far up north, even into Canada, you know, we have a lot of Kiowa names that are white bear and white fox, and you know, you see some of those as far as up as Alaska and even further, but we're migratory, nomadic is that one term they often use, and we were coming down this way. I agree with Warren. I go back to the Yellowstone in Montana as often as I can. I have good close friends with the Crow, but the point being, maybe we couldn't get along with people for some reason. We're always fighting among these different tribes, you know, and with ourselves especially. And you know, all due respect to the Utes, they were one of our traditional enemies. Maybe because you know, we were coming down here, we kind of liked it over here on the western slope, and they said no. But that being said, you know, Indian culture, we look at the circle, and things kind of evolve around. So you never know. Maybe we're on our way back from Oklahoma back in here to Colorado. I told people in an interview recently, I said, you know, there's something spiritual about being here in Colorado that I don't feel, even in Oklahoma, even though I call Oklahoma my home, but I live in Colorado. But it's that fact that, you know, this was a little bit of our homeland. And so I'm always encouraged every time I drive east and I see the signs, this Kiowa for the town. I always want to jump out and unscrew one and put it in my car to keep it home. But I think that importance of, some people call it ethnocentric or cultural pride or whatever, but I'm always looking at things that will be educational and formative, not only to my grandkids and my family, but my friends and community. Again, pointing to the uniqueness and the beauty and the diversity of Indian people, that we were all, you know, we're all related. I always like to go back to that. We're all related in some respects. But even in families, kids fight, mom and dad fight, but we always resolve it to some degree. And I think resolving issues is something that we can go forward with. And I keep coming back to this nation to nation discussion here. And I think that's going to be important as we go forward, particularly because I'm one of those positive people that the Cultural Embassy is going to become a reality. And it just offers so much opportunity for this area of the country to set a precedent for other areas where natives are occupied. So.
Wow, did not know that they're way up in Canada. Could you imagine them with, instead of Southern accents, they had Canadian accents?
Yeah.
Sitting up here with hockey
You
helmets.
can blame the settlers for that too.
All right, next question. Educational initiatives. What educational programs or initiatives could be developed to teach Denver residents about the Kiowa Tribe's history, culture, and contributions?
Well, I think it's beginning now with our Tribal Historic Preservation Office. I know they have a lot of good partnership with the Parks Department, Colorado Parks Department. I think that there's an opportunity there to teach more Cheyenne Arapaho culture too. Maybe these parks here that might want to invite us up. I know our Amanda Hills, our Historic Preservation Officer, she's at Devil's Tower today, you know, and they're camping out with some of our youth, talking about the connection up there to being that's a big part of our migration route, but might be an opportunity when we get that tribal embassy set up. Maybe we might do some more collaboration with the Colorado Parks Department. But I think there's an opportunity to partner on land stewardship with what you have here north of town by the airport in Stacy's district with the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, that big land you have there. It'd be awesome, and kind of teach us how to be stewards of the land, because we can even partner with our Cheyenne Arapaho brothers in Oklahoma. They have a lot of land that they manage, and our Kiowa people, we need to learn that. We need to be trained on some of that, because we've never had full management of our land base, because we've always had to share it with other tribes. But as what they've done now is what they used to do. We found this out when I joined the legislature. Allotments, original allottees got 160 acres. Well, some of those allotments were selling to farmers and ranchers at a discounted price through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. One person may own that whole allotment, and they want to sell it, and they were coming to the tribe, and the Kiowa tribe wouldn't purchase it. That's trust property. And so what they do, they go to the BIA, I'm going to take it out of trust, I'm going to sell it. And the BIA would say, you want to sell it to the person that's leasing it right now, we'll make the deal. And some of this stuff, they were selling like 160 acres for like $80,000. That's like, what, $500 an acre, something like that? I couldn't believe it. But making that deal, and just so that they could get some alahongia, some money off of it. And then the person would say, well, we tried to sell it to the tribe, and the tribe turned us down. So we're recreating that land base. My job is to have the budget approved so that we can purchase that land and rebuild our land base, because our land base is dwindling as people take that land out of trust. But I guess the partnership could be stewardship. What can we learn from the city of Denver and their parks department on how we are supposed to take care of our buffalo and our land?
I'm going to refer to the term collaborate, the Denver city and the community to the tribe. Okay, collaboration is two or more. Okay, so closer to home here, the Denver Indian Centers is re-energizing new youth programming here. And we're talking about educating, encouraging, and education is kind of a foundation here at the Indian Center. So, in collaboration, I would be looking at the tribe to say, okay, I know you fund, and this is always an issue, those tribal members that are close to home or around those surrounding counties of your tribal headquarters, but you've got tribal members, whether they're enrolled or not, but they may be culturally Kiowa in here living in Denver or the area, that may be interested in opportunities through scholarships, classes. I was just reminded, Andy's up here talking about the song and giving you a background and history. A lot of times, if we get more specific, authentic facilitators, people that have a background to come in and teach, whether it's in the school districts, in organizations like the Indian Center or other organizations here, then we can help bring forward what we talk about in terms of our culture, and add to and supplement what they learn at home. But that's wide open. Internships, exchange programs to the Kiowa tribe, and they bring kids up here so that they learn and educate each other about the differences and the similarities of who they are as Native people. So I see a lot of opportunities there, but it's two ways. So I'll be calling Warren and the chairman saying, hey, we got some Kiowa kids up here. Sure be good if they had a scholarship, or you could supplement their scholarship going to one of the private schools or the University of Colorado, Colorado State, Regis, Denver. So.
Thank you, Rick. So we're going to jump into economic partnerships. So in your eyes, are there opportunities for economic collaboration, such as supporting Kiowa-owned businesses or creating job opportunities for tribal members in Denver?
I think there definitely is, because where our tribe is located currently, we don't have a good access to a thoroughfare. Like our economic development, we got one egg in our basket, and that's our Kiowa Casino located near Lawton. And we need to expand. We need to reach out somewhere for development. You know, sending people to school, maybe in the Denver area, or setting up some scholarship programs that our tribal people can access. Yeah, people go to vocational school, you know, around Chickasha, Weatherford, Lawton, or they go to the University of Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. But what we really need to focus on is brainstorming with our tribe on where we can get the biggest bang for our buck. You know, like where can we invest our money and invest in our youth, maybe send them to school somewhere on a training program, and then they come back to work for their tribe in a certain area. I always reference the Buffalo program. You know, thank you to Scott and Stacy for helping us kind of connect last year. But I'll tell you a little story. It almost didn't happen because something almost fell through. The tribe, you know how it goes. Communication we're always not on the same page. And so I got an email from Rick. He said they're supposed to give Buffalo to the tribe, but they haven't been able to make contact with them. Well, I got on the horn, and I kind of got on them, and I said, y'all need to make a plan. And I said, what's your plan for these buffalo? Now they're coming back to our home. What's your plan for them? And they never got me a business plan. And that's because they lacked in that training. How do you steward your natural resources or wildlife management? I think that's something we need to explore in partnership with the city of Denver.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that but Warren hit on something. As the tribe develops their economic development opportunities or whatever companies, enterprises that they might be involved with, you need manpower, you need capacity. And we have a Native Workforce Program here at the Denver Indian Center, and we're always open to look how we can tie in those partnerships with not only, you know, third-party businesses and enterprises, but I think, you know, we can expand that to tribes, because our clients are tribally enrolled students and people looking for getting involved in helping themselves, you know, entrepreneurs, or tying into providing their skill and expertise. So I think that's a good opportunity down the road.
All right, one thing that I always press tribes on, especially here in Denver, that right next to Washington, D.C., Denver has the most government contracts for any city, and tribes can really take advantage of that. I think we had this conversation about 3 years ago. But right now, we're going to go to our Q&A right now. Can we give our Kiowa relatives a big round of applause?
All right, we have Andy first. Do we have anyone else that has a question? All right, Don next.
I don't know if this is a question or a comment, maybe both. You know, as Indian people, that word opposition always come to mind as an Indian person. How come we're the only people around this globe have to face opposition since 1492? Colonization is part of that. A lot of things that come to our minds as Indian people. The terminology that we use, we say, we're all opinionated in so many different ways because we're different tribe, different languages. And some of us are just basically oriented with the nature of our culture, religion, ceremonies. At the same time, you got other people in your tribe who are educated to go to colleges. And it seems like over 2/3 of the people here in the United States can't really depend on your tribe for assistance. You know, I've been in here in Denver for the past 46 years. The first 3 years, 1980, 81, and 82, I didn't like it here. But there were Indians here too as well, and everything they did here is different, just as it is today. But the only thing we had in common that we're all Indian people. We're all different tribe. And it wasn't always just serious, but we, Indian people, we like to have humor, and when I first came here, they used to make fun of my southern accent. I said, "You're not from here, are you?" I said, "No, I'm from Oklahoma." "That's where I come from. I come from over yonder." They said, "What is that, yonder?" "Oh, that means from here, over there, or back this way." But only time I could be Kiowa is when I got in my car, drove 12 hours to Carnegie, Oklahoma, where I'm from, Anadarko. My parents were still living, the late Leonard Cozad Sr., the late Velma Ahady Cozad. And my parents and relatives, aunts and uncles and grandpas and grandmas brought me up in a traditional manner. Although I don't speak my Kiowa language fluently, but the songs and dances, I was around that all my life. Just like this little child sitting right here by her mother. I was around our Kiowa ways all my life, and that was what we call the big drum, the powwow drum. And also the other religion that came after 1890s when the United States Army, Fort Sill, took the Kiowa Sundance away. And then later on, the relatives in Mexico, in southern Texas, the Lapanapachi brought over the peyote religion, Native American church. That's what I meant by opposition. Why? How come we're the only race in this whole entire universe has to face opposition every day? We got to go to Congress because they wanted to abolish certain things that belong to not only the Kiowa people, but all of us here. We are descendants of our ancestors, what they went through, the hardship. I don't talk about that very much here in Denver because it's all negative. But on the other hand, my parents had also taught me when you talk about things, do things, always focus on the good. The good. I don't care if someone said something to you in your face, behind your back. Pray about it. And you got family. And every person in every tribe is different. We all don't think and feel the same way. I'm going to get that straight out now. As I said yesterday, like our little ones here, what's in it for them when they get older, when they become our age? When it comes to education, when it comes to tribal, cultural things, and all the resources that we depend on. The last I heard from some relatives back home, I said, one of these days I get a chance, I want to move back home to Oklahoma, but I'll have to go to different proper channels with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and my tribe. You know what? I can't even just go home and say, hey, I'm going to build my house right here on Mom's land. Oh, no, you can't. You got to canvass the whole family before you can even get an okay. That's what I mean by opposition, ladies and gentlemen. Everything that we put our mind to, it doesn't come out the way we want to. So throughout these years, different organizations come about. Women's rights, people's rights, tribal rights, fishing and hunting rights, and all that kind of stuff, and all I can do is pray. I'm nobody perfect. Just because I talk at powwows sometime or pray at powwows doesn't mean I'm perfect. Oh, nay, that means no. I'm like you. I make my mistakes too. I do my share of paying taxes too. When I go to the schools, I talk about our Kiowa culture, children's songs and dances. Yeah, we Indians, some of us that work, we pay taxes. Things like that. So that's what we try to do in our communities, to share, because there's a lot on our mind, and we want the Creator to help us. Nobody's perfect but God. That's what I was told, to do these things in life. We want something good for our communities. And all you people I know here in Denver, you've all been good to us. You're like family to us. Some of you are closer than my own relatives. When I come here to the senior luncheons and see all you people, we have struggles. We have commitments. All other things, serious things. And as a Kiowa, I heard about casino. I joke about it. Hey, when did I get my share? Or when did I get my per cap? Like that. But I always pray for our Indian people. Struggle. Big tribes, they have a harder time because of the population. Whatever your endeavors are, may it be something successful. It may not happen today or next month, next year, but down the road with your people, your tribe. Something will come about for your people all across this country. And other things. There's so much more to cover, but I know our time is limited this afternoon, so I just want to convey that. And may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are actually out of time. Dawn, I'm so sorry. Mona, I'm so sorry. We need to keep moving. I'm so sorry about that. Can we get a round of applause for our Kiowa panel, please?
Thank you. But if you put your question on a card, Rick will answer it.
Yeah, if you use the comment cards, which nobody has today, I have not received any, write your questions down because we're going to do a post report and our panelists and presenters are going to do some homework and answer your questions. But I've only gotten one card and we are on day 2 and I'm a little sad about it. Okay, we're going to take just 2 minutes. Please stay seated.